Theme of this install is know your limits. You may be asking, Chris, where are you right now? I'm in a custom exhaust shop getting the Jeep work done. It's been about 2 weeks since I attempted to do the install on the exhaust spacer. It didn't work out. Hey guys, how are you doing? I'm doing good, thank you for asking. As you can tell by the title of this video, we are gonna talk about and then I'm gonna install these 3 modifications that I feel you need to do. Anytime you lift your JK 3 to 3.5 inches or greater. I say you need to do them because to me these are safety issues. There are other things that you should do, and I think we'll discuss those a little bit as well, but the focus of this video is installing these 3 modifications that you need to do when you lift your Jeep over 3 inches. Alright, so enjoy it. It was fun to do, and we'll get started. Okay guys, so the 3 things we're going to do is brake line extension using a steel brake line. Then we're going to do a differential breather hose extension. And then lastly, the exhaust spacer kit, which I got from TerraFlex, which will save our front drive shaft CV joint. Okay guys, so the first thing that we're going to do is to demonstrate is I disconnected my sway bars on each side at the lower bolt, and then we're going to take some measurements off these to show at what amount of articulation the breather hose pops off at, and then we're going to show you the when the brake lines get tight, and then when the drive shaft starts to make contact with the exhaust pipe. All right, hold tight. And it's off. So now you can see the difference, how much articulation we got to before the breather hose popped off. So let's just do a quick measurement of that. And I'm taking from about the center to the center, and we're looking at roughly about 4.5 inches, if I were to even that out. So about 4.5 inches of drop or articulation, and your breather hose, the stock breather hose, drops off. The second thing that we're going to repair, or not repair but replace, is the brake line right here. So we're at about 4.5 inches of drop. My tire isn't off the ground yet, so obviously we have more articulation to go, and I'll show you where that is, but that's already getting pretty tight. Okay, as we know, there's a bracket right here that it connects to, and then actually over to the brake calipers. But here we go. Let's see. All right, then the third piece of the puzzle, here's the front drive shaft. Here's the differential. Sorry about the lighting, not the best right here, I know. U-joint, and then we come back here. Here's the exhaust, comes down from the engine, comes over, and this is the drive shaft with the CV joint right inside there. And you can tell at that 4.5 inches that we're still at, I haven't changed it, we're already getting just a little bit of contact. Just a little bit of contact right there. I'm gonna lift it up a little bit more so I can get my front tires free, so I can spin this thing and show you what that looks like. So I'm at the extent of my articulation in the front. And the point of this is, we're looking at where the front drive shaft CV joint and cover overlap the exhaust pipe that goes across the body there. Okay, so again, we're in the front. There's your front drive shaft, and then there's the plastic cover that covers that joint. And the problem is, if you break that seal of that plastic cover, you are going to destroy that joint. And enough time on that exhaust pipe there is going to easily do that. So as you can tell, when I spin the wheels, it is, see, it's not even, there it goes. it is absolutely rubbing on that exhaust pipe. So you can imagine if that thing was hot, it's gonna eat right through that cover. So what we have to do is get these exhaust spacers that push that exhaust pipe back towards that cross member on the frame, and that therefore allowing the clearance when you have this much of a lift on your Jeep. Okay, so I'm getting ready to install the brake line extensions on my front driver's side, and I ended up taking the tire wheel off so I can get better access. Something that's not in the instructions, go figure, is that you gotta, when removing the old brake line, if you've done this before, if you've messed with your suspension and all, you know that you've got the brake line attached to this clip that clips in right here to the frame. There's no way of getting that out that I can see from this clip, so you've got to remove the whole clip, separate the ABS wire from the clip, and then just discard this entire piece. I'll show you that in just a minute. But so to take this off, you've got to take your shock bolts off, take the shock mount off at the bottom, so you have some room to pull this out and get it off. So that was not in the instructions, so there you go. Next step is disconnecting the brake line hose. Alright, step 1, or is this 10? I really don't know at this point, because that was not in the instructions. Anyway, we're going to remove this attachment here where the hose attaches to the caliper, and we're just going to use a 15mm bolt and have yourself a something to catch the fluid as it comes out. So here we go. Not bad. Yeah, you can see fluid coming out. I'll be honest with you, I don't know if how much fluid is going to come out. Hopefully the whole thing doesn't drain out. It's under pressure. There we go. Wow, that holds a lot of fluid in there. I wonder if I can slow that down by just plugging it and not lose all of that. There we go. Alright, so the next step is we're going to remove the upper line, the hard line, from the lower soft line. And we're going to use a 12mm wrench for that. Let's see. Alright, so that is now free. And we're losing oil. Okay. Next is we're going to remove the bracket. Oops, sorry. Next we're going to remove the bracket, and that's going to be just a 10mm bolt. Hold tight. There we go. Alright, that is out. Now, just remove this off. Okay guys, another step that's not in the instructions you're going to get is when you're attaching the brake line hose to the bracket, there's a retaining clip. Attach these two before you actually attach the bracket to the frame. Put the hose line through it and then attach this retaining clip. You're going to need to use a hammer to do that, to get that on, by the way. Okay, tip number 27. Before attaching this bracket to the frame, I'd recommend you attach the hard brake line to the new brake line at the bracket, because as you can see, as it's naturally sitting like this, that hole, this hole, does not line up with this hole. I'm not even sure how I'm going to tighten that now. And you gotta like really stretch this thing out. I can't even do it with one hand to get it over towards that hole. Yeah, totally not happy with that. I may see if I have another, like some sort of extension bracket that I can use so that this will actually work better. Okay guys, so here's what you get per side. You get a line, you get a clip that I will talk about in a second. You get a little retaining clip. This is the top attachment, and this is the attachment that goes to your brake caliper. And then these are going to go on each side of the bolt that you attach to the brake caliper. This bracket does not, that bracket does not fit or work correctly on the driver's side. And alright, so we are actually at full extension of the shock right now, and as you can see, nice and loose. ABS line, front brake line, nice and loose. Hard to see because I don't have the light on, but gonna have to fix that. But yeah, everything's nice and loose. I've got it right now, I've got it zip tied to the shock right here. This is just the ABS line zip tied to the brake line, and then I've got it zip tied to this old hole on the frame here to make sure it doesn't get bound up into the spring at any point in time. Love it. Love that. Don't love that. We'll talk about that later. Alright guys, so what we're looking at right here is the passenger side, and as you can see, the bracket actually works quite well. As intended on the passenger side. There's enough slack in the hard line there to to completely fit where the OEM hole is. So good on this side, not good on the driver's side. Alright, so I'm gonna just zip tie this up and we'll move on. Alright, and here's the setup for the rear, which is the same exact as the front, except these lines are 30 inches and the front was 26 inches. Alright, so let's take you through a little anatomy of the rear setup. We're on the driver's side right now. Here's your hard brake. Here's your hard brake line. Here's my drop down bracket. This I will be removing this nut, and then we'll be separating the brake line from here. This is the old brake line, wraps around here and goes, you probably can't even see. You can't. See if I can get in there a little better. And right there. Right there. Ooh, that's really zoomed in. But that's the brake caliper. So that's what we're gonna be doing. All right, folks, so finished product on the driver's side. Just attached the bracket that came with it to the line right there. Worked out really well. And then just snaked it. Not even gonna do any zip tying. I think it's gonna do great. And then got it right there. Got it going in right there. There it is. All right, so we're on the passenger rear side. Step one is gonna remove, no, not removing that yet. All right, so step one is I'm actually going to loosen this a little bit. I learned from doing the driver's side that it's easier just to loosen this first while everything's bolted in, because this is on really nice and tight. Good, got that. Again, this is 12 millimeter wrench, and all I'm doing is just loosening it, just so that when I go to actually take it off, it's easier, and I've already got it. I'll take it off once I get these off. All right, next step is taking this off, and this, again, these are 11 millimeter. Actually, do I even need to do that? I don't. I'm gonna just take this one off. So we're just gonna take that off. That's your 10 millimeter. This is the drop down bracket. This is the drop down bracket that came with my suspension lift, and I'm not gonna need to reuse that. So here we go. And that's off. Need to keep that bolt because we are going to reuse it. Okay. All right, so now we're gonna take off the bolt at the caliper here. Again, we're using a 15mm. There we go. So as you do this, you're gonna notice the brake fluid starting to come out. It's gonna come out of the caliper and the brake line, but a lot of it's coming out of the caliper. So as soon as I get this off, I'm gonna put the bolt right back in just to stop it from bleeding out so much. So there we go. Let's get this, let's plug this back up. Easier said than done. Okay, there we go. Alright, so stop the bleed. Alright guys, so finished product is I did get it, the bracket clamped in right here, tightened this line up, got it snaked here. I did end up zip tying to the sway bar in the back. Got plenty of slack here, runs down the end link, and then connects right down there, as we've seen before. Beautiful. Here's the solution I did for this bracket that didn't quite fit over here. This bracket didn't fit over here, so I used the drop-down bracket that came with my Terraflex suspension lift that I no longer need, and just drilled a hole through it, and then connected it right here and tightened it up with just 11mm bolts. So right now I've got the Jeep lifted up. We're at pretty much full flex. The wheel is off the ground, and as you can see, still got a lot of good slack here in the new line. So very happy with this. Very happy. Except for the fact that I had to use a new bracket, but that's okay. That's what we have to do. Hey guys, so here are the supplies that I used for the differential breather tube extension. I used a 1/4" fuel line hose. You could go with 1/4", it works, but it doesn't fit over the nipples on the differential. I think a 5/16 is what you should actually go with if you want to do that. I ended up just splicing the middle of the OE tube and just putting this in, and I used these little menders right here, and then clips to tighten everything down. It worked fine, but when I bought this, I thought the 1/4" fuel line hose was actually going to fit over the nipples, so just a little bit of a change of plan, just for your FYI. I would say I probably spent, I got 2 boxes of these. I think they were like $5 a piece. They're 5 feet long. I still had plenty of extra. And then I think this was a pack of 10, and this is a pack of 20. I think less than 20 bucks is what I spent total on this. And it worked out great, as you can see. Alright guys, so a little hard to see, but there's my breather hose, and I just spliced into it this blue 1/4" fuel tubing. Zip tied it right there, which you can see. Let's get it over here. So I zip tied it to the frame right there, plenty of slack, and then I have it coming around up by the brake line and then into the fire, or into the engine compartment, and I'll show you at the top what I ended up doing. So if you look at where the top of the shock is, that's roughly where it was stock, which I thought was crazy. I thought it'd be actually a little bit higher than that, so I actually extended it up, and I'll show you where I put that. Alright guys, so here we are on the driver's side, and just below here on the inside of the wheel well basically is where the breather tube ended. So I want to actually bring it up a little more, so I brought it up and put it, just zip tied it right here. I'll clean this up in a second, but just brought it up here, still kept it under the hood, because obviously when I don't want water going in it, but here's the breather tube, which will work perfectly, I think. Brought it up another probably foot at least. Not that I plan on going in water that deep, but you never know with the zombie apocalypse what might happen. That was a joke. So there you go. That's kind of where it sits, and that's it. All right, guys. So we are in, excuse me, the rear passenger side wheel well, and I just wanted to show you where the breather hose kind of terminated. It was actually kind of right up in this area, right behind this wheel well plastic thing here. So what I ended up doing is extending it up. Come around here, see if I can get a good picture. So we're now at the back. I took the passenger side rear light off, and you can see that I kind of see it. There it is, right here. So I just zip tied it to a hole that's already here in the body, and there is the new breather tube. And then I'll just put the brake light back on, and then I'll show you what I did underneath at the differential. Okay, and then underneath on the rear, as you can see, I've got it just above the frame right there, zip tied to the top part of my rear shock mount. Coming over here, zip tied to the cross member of the frame right there. And then got this nice loop in it and reconnected it to the differential, or the axle, which is gonna have plenty of slack in it, as you can see. That's gonna be awesome. So there you go. Oops. So there you go, that's the rear.
What are you doing in the custom exhaust shop? Well, I ignored everything that was basically said on the forums when you're doing this exhaust spacer install, and that is to just take it to an exhaust shop and let them do it. The rust from living in the Northeast for the last 6 years, couldn't beat it. So here I am. Know your limits. Yeah. So I tried it. Hopefully we got a little video of that where it went wrong. I PB blasted those bolts for a week, but when you live in the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast and your Jeep is 6 years old, there's no hope. So he's in there right now. I think he's gonna be burning them off with some sort of blowtorch. Hopefully he doesn't burn the Jeep up. And then we're gonna get that installed. So it's been about 2 weeks since I attempted it, and finally getting to it. So know your limits. Hey guys, so just got the Jeep back from the exhaust shop. Let's get it jacked up. I'm gonna disconnect the sway bar end links, and then so we can get that full articulation or full drop on the front axle, and then we're gonna see what the drive shaft is, make sure it clears the exhaust. All right, so stay tuned. So the sway bar end links are disconnected. The wheels are off the ground. They're spinning. All right, let's go underneath. Okay, so here is the passenger side spacer. As you can see, not a lot of room left on that bolt, so that's something I'll just watch over time. Nicely done. Let's go look at the driver's side. And there's our driver's side spacer. Right, now the big thing is, boom, right there. We have the clearance, no touching. Let's see, spin, nothing. Awesome, and that's what we gain by getting these spacers in, guys. Beautiful. All right, guys, so that's it. Those are the 3 things that I think you really should do if you are lifting your JK 3 inches or more. Really for safety reasons, right? So number 1, brake lines, definitely need to extend those. Secondly is the differential breather. Protect those differentials if you get into some deeper water. And then lastly is the exhaust spacer, so your drive shaft when your front tires drop down, and that's, you know, one of the big things of getting a lift is gaining more articulation, gaining more clearance. It also means your drive shaft is going to be having a lot more angle onto it. And to deal with that, you got to push that exhaust pipe back a little bit so that the CV joint doesn't rub on it, and then possibly going through that plastic cover and totally destroying your CV joint. So those are my thoughts on things that you definitely have to do. Love to hear yours in the comments below, or what you've done, because I could be missing something. I certainly don't want to be out on the road when I could have, and broken down when it's something that I could have completely avoided if I knew more. Lastly, on that exhaust spacer, if your JK is as old as mine, 6 years old now, and if you lived in an area where there's rust, like the Northeast where my Jeep was, I'm in Colorado now, but for the first 6 years of its life, it was in the Northeast. Just take it to an exhaust specialist or exhaust shop and let them do the work. It'll save you a lot of headache, trust me. And if you want to know where I went to in Colorado Springs, just let me know. I'd be glad to recommend them. They did a great job. All right, guys, till next time, I've got some good videos coming up. Got a couple more install videos, and hopefully I can get out. We keep getting snow, but hopefully I can get out onto some trails and show you Colorado and why I moved out here. All right, any questions, any comments, please leave them below. And if you are not a subscriber, and there's only 14 of you that are, please subscribe, smash that like button. Would love to have you as part of the team. All right, guys, take care, peace, see you next time.